Hey everybody, Victor Lucia here, founder and president of the Brooklyn Fishing Club. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Brooklyn Fishing Club podcast. Tonight we have another very special guest who will be joining us in just a moment. This episode is brought to you by Goodnight Sunny, one of my favorite spots in NYC, located on the corner of St. Mark's and First in Manhattan. They specialize in serving the most sustainable seafood they can get their hands on. This week, with the current state of affairs, they're closed, but we'll be giving away perishable food all week, so stop by. Big shout out to the owner, Pete Canny, who has been in the BFC since our first meeting 6 years ago. Seems like it was just yesterday. Goodnight Sunny is usually open till 4 a.m., 7 days a week. They have great cocktails, an extensive raw bar. The food is always so good, and the menu changes all the time, which gives you great options. Follow them on IG at Goodnight Sunny NYC. That's Goodnight Sunny SONNY NYC, and stay tuned for their reopening. Interested in joining the Brooklyn Fishing Club? Visit brooklynfishingclub.com to view a list of membership benefits, our upcoming trips, events, meetings, and more. All of our open boat dates for stripers are up, and we have a few shirts left in stock before we put out our new clothing for the spring, so be sure to stop by the shop.
Just waiting for you.
On this episode, we're joined by a very special guest, the one and only Bill Wetzel, a surf angler of epic proportions. Bill, thank you for joining us tonight. How are you holding up with everything going on right now?
Just working through it like everybody else. I'm going to work, trying to fish as much as I can. Got into a new thing, arrowhead hunting.
Nice.
So I'm doing that, spending time with the family.
Yep. How do you think this pandemic is going to impact the overall fishing industry / community?
I don't know. I mean, it remains to be seen. I know a lot of the charter boats, they're canceling their trips right now, but I can't see it impacting my fishing. I mean, when I guide, it's just one person. We go in the truck and then we go out. But the rest of the community, it could. I mean, it could impact a lot of charter boats and things like that. But, we'll see. Who knows? It could be gone tomorrow,
Yep.
So.
Yeah, I have a feeling we're going to see more people going out on their own fishing. And like you said, the charter guys are going to definitely take a hit.
One thing, fishing, you're not going to get coronavirus going out fishing in the middle of the night by yourself.
Oh,
you
not.
go outdoors, spend as much time outdoors as you possibly can. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah, everybody's talking about social distancing. I think
Right.
this is the best form of it.
I mean, if it's fishing, if it's taking a walk on the beach, if it's going outside, spending time with your kids, I mean, now's the time.
Yep. Definitely. So let's hit rewind for a second. What would you say your earliest memory of fishing is?
My earliest memory of fishing, that would be, my very earliest is fishing in Marblehead, Ohio, in a quarry with a baseball bat, piece of monofilament, and a bobber. And I caught, I think it was a perch on a baseball bat and a bobber. I was hooked before then. I remember just constantly thinking about fishing. But after I caught that fish, that was it.
And you set that that setup up with the bat and everything? You put that all together?
I don't think I did. My dad probably did. My dad wasn't much of a fisherman. He was more of a hunter. But I don't know. I've always been obsessed with it.
So
I used to think I could catch fish in puddles. Like if there was a puddle when I was a kid, if there was just a little like mud puddle, I used to think there was fish in it.
So you said you were hooked even before that perch. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Well, I mean, when I caught the first perch, I must have been about 3 or 4 or something like that, young. So I can't remember not thinking about fishing. I just can't, all since I've been born. I don't know. Something like it's in you, Either it's in you or it's not. Part of my job is try to get it in people.
How many hours would you say you've logged fishing?
Oh my God!
Rough
Who knows?
estimate, rough ballpark.
I have no idea, man. I don't know. I mean, you can go on a website, look at my logs. Go to surfratsball.com, and then you can look at my logs. And since 2002, that's how much I've been fishing. But before that, I used to fish, with the salt water, with the surf fishing. There was a period of time where I was fishing when I was sick, had a fever, just constantly, 7 days a week, usually twice a night. Like I'd go out for dusk, and then I'd fish till like 11 at night, and then I'd get up at 3 and fish till dawn, and then somehow I'd function during the day for whatever job I had, or
how would you
going
do
to
that?
school, or
I
don't even freaking know, man.
How did you do that, man?
I don't know.
That leads me to my next
People say
question.
I'm 55 now. People always ask me, "How do you do what you do now?" I just always done it. I mean, I don't know, man. I'm motivated to do it.
Do you even set an alarm clock anymore, or you just know when to get up?
No,
take a
you gotta set the alarm clock. You know what the key is, man? The key is like getting 10 minutes of sleep, pulling over in your car and getting 10 minutes of sleep. 10 minutes, you have no idea what 10 minutes will do for you. Just pull over 10 minutes, boom, you're ready to go.
So are you one of those Sharpies that can just fall asleep on command? Just fall asleep on command, wake back up.
when I'm in the season, man, I'm like, okay, I got 10 minutes of sleep. I can sleep for 10 minutes. I'll go right to sleep usually. Unless there's like a bite going on, and then I'll be like, oh shit. Then I can't sleep.
No sleep.
Then I can't. I try to sleep, and even if I have all night, I'm like, I should be out there. I still have that. After all these years, it's still like that.
So what personal sacrifices have you made over the years to get where you're at? In terms of being one of the most reputable surf anglers to ever fish in Northeast. I know a lot went into that.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about that. There's a lot of guys out there, but I gave up a lot of family time. I try to spend a lot of time with my family now. I mean, the whole winter I try to spend with my family, and try not to fish. And I'm not fishing quite as hard as I was, because I got my son's baseball, my daughter's stuff as well. So, it's just a lot of family. I, gave up going out with my friends a lot when I was younger. They used to think there's something wrong with me because I would never hang out.
Yeah.
And I was just like, he's just going fishing, man. So just a lot of friendships, girls, everything. You give up everything just for fishing. And I'm not the only one. There's a lot of guys that do that. I mean, I take out a lot of people, and fishing, and I get a lot of people who have, alcohol problems, or who've had alcohol problems or drug problems, and they trade that addiction for the addiction of surf fishing. So, and, fortunately, it's always been the fishing itself has been my addiction. For them, they're trading a bad addiction for a good addiction. So it's, it's a really good thing.
Yeah.
So.
Definitely. So I guess this next question is kind of pointless. You've never taken any breaks from the sport, have you? Because personally, I know when I was in high school, I was very focused on sports and athletics, and I didn't really fish that much in my high school years. But
even when I was in high school, my mother would, she would let me go out at 14 years old. She would let me go out and go at night by myself. And I had an next door neighbor, Rod Rosso. I used to go out in this aluminum boat. He used to take me out. We used to drift worms in Oyster Bay over the Brickyards and all over the Sound, Center Island. And we caught a lot of nice fish doing that. So I guess the only time I took a break maybe was, I didn't even take a break then, because I'm originally from Ohio. And then we moved to, I'll tell you, what happened was my parents got a divorce. My stepfather was a cop in New York City. He met my mother one night, and next thing I know, I'm moving to Queens. And I'm like, where in the hell do I fish here? I grew up catfish fishing. I was 13 years old. And he dropped me off. I don't know what the hell. We lived in Woodhaven. He dropped me off. I'll never forget. He gives me bunker chunks. Like, I never fished with something like that in my entire life, like a big chunk of fish, And he's like, yeah, just throw it over the bridge. And he dropped me off on some bridge in some freaking bad neighborhood. Just left me there. I'm 13 years old. And And I didn't catch anything, but I remember thinking, man, that was sketchy shit. But I wanted to go back, even though I'm like, there's got to be fish there. I want to go back. I didn't know anything about tides, or I didn't even know what a tide was because I grew up on Lake Erie.
So do you still dabble in freshwater at all, or is it mainly?
Yeah,
all salt?
I got a freshwater lake right by my house. Actually, the other night I went walleye fishing.
How'd you do?
You know, I didn't do anything.
That's cool. I'm
going back though. I'm going back.
How big did they get over there?
Walleyes?
Yeah, over by you.
Yeah, it was. This was in Lake Ronkonkoma. So, I've never caught a walleye in there, and I hear they get pretty big. I just started fishing there.
I've heard they're there. I've heard good things.
Yeah, they're there, man. So I went in the middle of the night. I went at 3:00 in the morning. So I was like, oh man, it's almost like surf fishing. You know, I was out standing in the water. The stars were out. It was freezing, like 25 degrees, but it was freaking beautiful. Loved it.
Do you do ice fishing at all?
I mean, I'm not gonna do that all the time. Just once in a while, just to take the chill out, I guess.
Yeah.
And then I got another lake right by my house. It's just low. I mean, I can go in there and have many freshwater fish as I want.
Oh, that's awesome.
So
when did you start fishing?
I want to get back to Ohio and do some catfish fishing. That's what I grew up on.
Have you noodled at all? Have you ever done that?
No, but I would do that in a second, man. Would you do that?
I would do it. Yeah. My only fear is like,
freaking cool.
Is there being like a snake up there or something? I don't know.
Yeah,
I also feel like the fish gods have it out for me.
It's the whole adrenaline. If there's a snake or a freaking beaver or something, man, take your fucking hand off. How cool would that be?
That'd be a hell of a story.
It would be a good story to be like, oh man, trying to get that catfish, Yeah,
I got a beaver.
I never
instead.
know. We fish for what we would do is we fished in Oak Harbor in Ohio in the Little Portage River, and my aunt had a house right on the river. So we would camp out sometimes for like a whole week, and we'd fish 24 hours a day. I mean, 'cause we were just kids. So we had the tent, we built a fire, and we built this big pen for the fish. And it was like maybe, I don't know, 3 feet by 4 feet, like a box. And we'd fill up with catfish. And once we filled it up, we usually let them go because we didn't feel like cleaning them.
That's crazy. Channel cats?
Bullhead. Yeah, mostly channel cats. Yeah, most of them were small.
Cool. You ever caught a double digit?
One night, I'll tell you a little story. One night when I got a little older, it must have been about, 15 maybe. So I'm at my cousin's, we're fishing, we called it the boondocks. There's these big dikes, and on both sides of these dikes there's water, and in the water there's a lot of bullheads, tiny bullheads. We're fishing and we're drinking, and we're getting really, really hungry. I'm like, man, why don't we just cut these bullheads open? We want to eat them. So we cut the freaking bullheads open right there and put them on a stick, man. Oh my God, it was the best ever. It was really good, man.
That sounds good.
I'll never forget that. You got to realize it was in the middle of nowhere. I mean, Port Clinton, Ohio, if you Google it, it's like, you're in the boonies over there. There's nobody around.
Yeah.
It's not like Montauk even. It's just desolate.
It's crazy.
So, yeah, that was some good times, man.
Yeah, I've gone after catfish on rod and reel a little bit. I got my PB in Jersey. It was like pushing 15 pounds. It was right after.
That's nice. Nice catfish.
Right after the winter thaw. I was feeding. I was definitely pregnant too. But anyway, when did you start fishing competitively?
I guess I've always been competitive to myself, but I guess I didn't do tournaments till I couldn't even tell you when. Probably I want to say like the mid '80s. No, before that, because I had a record weak fish one year. It was 13 pounds 8 ounces, and I was like, must have been about 16, 17 years old or something like that.
Wow!
It held the state record for that year, and then in October somebody beat it. So I would say whenever the Montauk Classic back in the '80s, I guess I used to do that. And I always came in. I started to place. I started to come in like, I guess by the late '80s I started to place like second, third, and second. I would never win it, always like second and third. could never win that friggin' thing. So till recently, I won a couple of them.
Who are some of the guys that were your top competitors when you were grinding it out in those tournaments?
I wasn't really in competition with anybody but myself. I wasn't thinking about anybody. I would see, man, what the hell were the names? I can't even think of the names up there back then. Recently, Bruno, of course, John Bruno. He kicks ass out there. He's a big wetsuiter. But back then in the '90s, early '90s and '80s, I can't even remember the names. It was at Freddie's Bait and Tackle. That was the weigh-in back then. And I used to hang out. I met Charlie Ruger, and a lot of guys know who Charlie is. So, he let me into his crew, and I was always the youngest, and his crew, consisted of like Don Musso and Charlie and this guy Robert and one of the best surf fishermen, the best surf fisherman I know, Crazy Bill Dickinson. The dude was a madman, man. Him and his son. His son Nemo, his name was Bill. We call him Nemo. Back then, everybody had a name, partly because you're a Montauk fisherman, and partly because we had CBs. So all communication was done on CBs. So
what was your nickname?
CB. Rocky Point Bill.
What was it?
Rocky Point Bill.
Rocky Point Bill.
Yes. And I can't tell you why they call me Rocky Point, because then I'd spoil a spot. But
I'm assuming it's a really good spot.
And then later they called me Split Ring, and I used to hate Split Ring. I'm like, why the fuck you call me Split Ring, man? Because I would put I would never use, to this day I don't. Back then it was the dual locks.
Uh-huh.
For the clips. Now they got tactical anglers, so I don't use any clips. And because the clips, especially the dual locks, they would just freaking break on me all the time. Not all the time, but a lot. So I stopped using them, and I put on split rings on all my plugs, and they call me Split Ring. Oh, my God, I hate that name.
Any other nicknames along the way?
Nah, not for me. Not for me.
What's
Split Ring and Rocky Point Bill.
That's funny. What's some of the craziest stuff you've seen with with all your hours logged on the water?
Wow.
Bizarre, wild.
There's a lot of them. I tell you a couple. One time I'm up at I'm fishing Comset State Park. This is back in the '90s. I'm walking along, and there's this boat sitting there. Like, this is back when we had the sand deals. Like back in the mid '90s, we had tons of bass. They were mostly teen bass and sand eel bite back in June back then. And those fish, hellcats were great, whiptails, stuff like that. We used to catch them on. But anyway, so I'm walking down the beach, and I see this boat. Boat's like, I don't know, 30 to 40 yards off the beach. It didn't look like there was anybody on it, but I figured the guy was sleeping or something. But it was like right there. So I walk all the way around to the backside of Comset, which is a good, I don't know how far it is. It seems like it's like a mile and a half maybe. And all right, go fishing. Then I'm walking back, and I see like this on the point. It's called Diamond Point. It's nothing there. It's just a point, and it's just beach. There's no rocks, nothing. So I looked, and it looked to me like a big rock had came up on the point. What the hell is that? And the guys are standing around it. I'm like, holy shit. Then I see a black boat with a guy in a wetsuit. As I get closer, I'm like, what the hell's going on? So as I approach, there's a dead, bloated guy right on Diamond Point, and there's 3 or 4 guys, and I shit you not, are fishing like right next to the dead body. Right next to him. I'm like, give him some respect, man. You know what I mean?
Oh my God.
Yeah. So apparently the guy had a heart attack, fell off the boat.
Oh.
He must have been out there for a while because he was freaking bloated.
Damn, dude.
But there's tons of freaking stories.
These guys are just fishing there.
I almost died a couple times. Well, once I almost died.
Yeah, let's hear that one.
So, shit, I must have been. It had to be. Let's see. I would say maybe 89, 90, something like that. Maybe 91. I don't know. But I remember my rod, which I still have. I call it Man Killer. I have a 11.5-foot Sabar blank, and I probably have my 850 SS on there, maybe a 706. I think I have my 850. So we had a nor'easter, and it was a really fucking bad nor'easter. It was it blew all day, and if you read stuff, oh, you got to fish the nor'easter, you got to fish the nor'easter. So I'm like, oh, I can fish this, It's blowing 55. It went from northeast to due north, 55 sustained. It was just howling. So I get out of my truck, I walk down. Back then you could park right at Bluffs. I probably parked at the Bluffs, actually. I get out of my truck, and I'm just looking. I'm like, holy shit, because the wind's coming right at you. I'm like, this is unfishable. Huge water, 15 to 17-foot sets on the south side. It was huge, man. And so it's north side's unfishable. So I get on my truck, I go around to Camp Hero, and I'm over the Bluffs. Back then, you just drove in, you closed the gate, and you could park right up to the edge of the Bluffs. So I'm looking over the Bluffs, and I'm watching these fucking waves, man. They're just tremendous, but the wind's at your back. So they're clean sets. They're 15 to 17-foot sets clean. And I'm like, like an idiot. I'm like, I can do that. And waders, not a wetsuit. I'm like, I can do that. So I walk down. I'm like watching, and I'm like, I'm thinking, what am I going to throw? So I think I put on a bottle plug, and I made my way out to the rocks. And it was, what was happening was you look at it was those. If anybody's fished big water, you're looking at the horizon, and then the horizon just becomes black, and you can't see shit. It's just, and that's a wave coming at you. Only these waves weren't like the little 6 and 7 foot sissy ass waves. These were friggin', man killers. Yeah. So I'm out there, and these waves are coming in, and I'm trying to get this bottle plug to hold. And, I'm holding my own, and but at the same time, I'm just shitting bricks. So I put on a bucktail and nothing, and this is how I learned how to get off a rock that night. So I'm trying to time the waves. I'm getting off the rock. So when you get off a rock, you need to back off the rock. You never go forward, because if you go forward, you don't know where the bottom is. If you put your rod in, you jam it into the ground and you back off. You just put your foot down on the ground. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I went forward. When I went forward, I didn't know where the bottom was, and I'll never forget, man. I was friggin' spread eagle, and I fell. My rib hit this rock. I hear my rib crack, and then this fucking wave comes in, and it starts dragging me out. It was just, the undertow was friggin' tremendous. I had no business being out there. None. Zero. And anyway, I took my rod and I jammed it in the ground. I'll never forget my rod because of the undertow. My rod's shaking. So my rod's friggin' shaking. I'm just holding on for life. I get up and I manage to get back to shore. And when I get back to shore, I'm just like, I was fucking obsessed. I'm like 22 years old. I'm like, I looked up in the air, and I don't know who I was yelling at. I'm like, fuck you. I'm catching a fucking fish. I'm catching a fish. I'm all alone. Nobody else is around with a broken rib. I didn't realize I had a cracked guide, too. So I go over to Turtle Cove, which is right next to Brown's. And I'm like watching the waves, and it looked easy, because even though the waves were huge, there was a beach there. Turtle Cove's an easy place to fish. But what I didn't realize was after the wave was hitting, it was coming all the way up to the wall and then washing back out. So I get there and I make 1 or 2 casts. Fucking wave comes in, hits the back of the wall, and I'm standing there on the beach, starts dragging me out again. If I would have been either one of those scenarios, I would have been lost forever. There's no way. I did the same thing. Just put my rod in the sand. I just held on for life, and that was it, man. I was friggin' done. But I did break my ribs. I've never been the same since.
Wow. So
yeah, that was
that's pretty close.
You do stupid things. I love to fish big water, but you gotta. I tell people, you gotta fish big water, but at the same time, you gotta have common sense. You can't do dumb shit like that, like I did.
So let's say someone's about to go into their first year of surf casting. What's the best piece of advice that you'd give them?
if you're going to get into the sport and really, like if you live on Long Island or you live near water, you're really going to get into the sport, buy good equipment. Don't buy crap. Buy good equipment if you can. I couldn't when I was a kid, but, eventually I got good equipment. But if you can, buy good equipment and read a lot, study a lot, get to know somebody who knows about surf casting. Take out a guide. Take me out.
Yeah.
And that's really it. And you got to put in your time. Start
Yep.
going in the daytime, start looking at the water, keep logs, all the stuff that typically you read about is what you got to do. But the key component is time. You got to be willing to put in the time. If you're just going to do it just every once in a while, that's cool too, but you're not going to be consistent and catch as much, especially in today's fishery. It's harder and harder.
You've mentioned your logs a few times. How important have they been to you remaining successful?
Well, to tell you the truth, when I first started out, maybe the first 15 years, 20 years, they were very important. Now I literally can remember. I have a weird fishing memory. I remember everything fishing. I don't remember anybody's name. I don't remember anybody's face. But if I take somebody out and they'll say, I have no idea who they are. They'll say, oh, don't you remember? It was that night I dropped that big fish over at Caswell's. He broke my line. Oh, yeah. 5 years ago. I remember that. I can't remember them. So I got a sick memory for fishing. So, for me, I still look at my logs. I just go on my website and just print them out. For me, it's winter reading. It's kind of, because it goes through, my logs on my site go through, when my kid was born, and they go through the life of, my whole life, really.
That's so
fishing.
Cool. That's so cool.
Yeah, so I go through that,
and people can
I know
access
my tides. I at this point, unless it's somewhere new, I'll keep really detailed logs, and because I got to learn it.
When you're out there on the surf, when there aren't any obvious signs of fish, like there's no birds working, what are you looking for that will tell you, okay, there might be some fish holding right there?
I'm not looking for anything. I'm looking on past experience. How I do it is, I take somebody out and they're like, oh, do we have a good, my bread and butter's Montauk. So they're like, oh, are we booked at a good tide? I tell them the tide doesn't matter. It only matters to the spot that you're fishing. And there's 1,000 spots there. To me, just because there's nothing showing doesn't mean anything. To me, if I usually I know the bait migrations, maybe, for example, the last moon of September, the first moon of October. Hopefully, we'll have some juvenile weakfish coming in, and if I know that's happening, I'll know where to go and what plugs to throw and stuff like that. So it's based on tide and wind and all the conditions of that night.
Gotcha.
Not simply because I don't see fish or I do see fish.
Yeah.
That's only when I'm easy fishing in the fall.
Gotcha.
In the daytime. Usually I'm fishing at night, so
yeah.
I don't even see any birds.
So let's talk a little bit about the new striper regulations. How do you feel about them? First of all,
boy.
Let's talk about it. What do you think?
What do you want to talk about?
Do you think it's a step in the right direction? Do you think it's gonna, have
I don't know. I mean, part of me feels like 28 to 35, right?
Yeah, 28 to 35.
So
one fish per man.
Part of me feels like okay, anything's a good thing, but I tell you, in my opinion, what is desperately needed is a moratorium. That's what we need. We're not going to ever see it because people are too freaking greedy, and it's never going to happen. I think the charter and the party boats have to re-educate their customers to go catch and release, have huge pools on the biggest release fish. It can be done. My customers hardly ever keep a fish. I don't even know if we kept the fish last year. I educate them before I take them out, and 99% of the time, they'll release the fish. Now, as far as the 28 to 35 goes, they're still going to, what's that tell you? They're still going to kill them at 28.
Yeah.
They're still not going to live past 28.
Yeah.
So what the hell do we do? They're dead at 28 anyway. I don't get it. And not to mention, there's no enforcement on Long Island. The EC officers are way overworked. They have their territory is huge. Last year I saw a guy poaching out in Montauk. You know where the DEC guy came from? Riverhead. You know how far that friggin' is from Montauk?
45 minutes,
it's far.
hour. Yeah.
It's an hour, an absolute hour.
Yeah.
You know, he's like, I mean, he was badass. I called him. I'm like, dude, you're never gonna make it. He's like, I'm on Sunrise Highway doing 95 right now.
Nice.
I saw him going down Main Street doing like 60 on Montauk. And he did bust a guy for one, but the guy, he was poaching. This guy he must have had 30 fish.
Jesus.
You know, but yeah, he was just poaching one fish after another fish, and they were all shorts.
So do you see a lot of poaching out there in Montauk?
Well, Montauk everywhere. Go to any friggin' bridge, man. Yeah. Any bridge on Long Island, and there's people poaching fish every friggin' night.
Yeah.
I'll tell you exactly what they do. They either use a black plastic bag and they dump every fish over the edge, or they'll dump them in a certain spot over the bridge, like eelgrass or something like that, and then go pick them up.
Yeah.
You know, I see it all the time, but you know, there's not enough DEC guys to cover it. And 28 to 35, do you think half these people who don't even know what a regulation is are going to be able to figure out freaking 28 to 35?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Slot's not going to work here. It just, I mean, it works in certain states, but certain other states have enforcement. We don't.
Mm.
You know?
What do you think needs to be done to fix that? You just need more money towards it?
Yeah. I mean, we need more DEC officers.
Yeah.
That's never going to happen.
Yeah.
That's never happened since I've been here. You know, all my life, I've never seen a lot of DEC. I can go an entire year of fishing. I'll bet you I'll see a DEC officer 3 or 4 times the whole friggin' season. Maybe not even.
Yeah,
maybe not even. And usually, if I call them, if I'm out at Montauk, it's pointless because they can't get there.
It's crazy.
There's nobody out there.
There's nobody out there.
You know, I mean, and you know, it's just the way it is. You know, I guess 28 to 35. Okay, maybe it's better.
But what's it going to do to that class of fish?
They should have did 1 at 36. After the moratorium, it was 1 at 36.
And that worked well?
I think that's a beautiful thing, man.
Yeah.
It's easy. You know, if you read anything about them, they start breeding at 28 inches, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I believe. So, you know, it leaves that 28 fish alone, and then you take 1 over 35, and that's it. One in possession. That's it. 1 a day, 1 in possession.
So what are your thoughts on the MRIP, or the Marine Recreational Information Program? What are your thoughts on their estimates on shorebound anglers for, you know, stripers, scup, sea bass?
I don't even know too much about it, to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know too much about that.
No problem.
I'm not really involved with that, so I do not even want to comment on it, really.
Do you attend these meetings that they hold to the public? I've been to a few. Do you even bother going anymore? Yeah, I've been to a few.
You know, I would love to be able to attend more meetings. You know, I'm sitting here like a herb saying, oh, man, it should be this, should be that. Meanwhile, I desperately feel that I need to get more involved. I attended some meetings. We met with, who the hell we meet with? I don't know, a senator or something, or just a group of us. You know, I was very honored to be invited to that. That was in the fall. And, you know, I write a lot of letters. I try to advocate through my website and through whatever, when I do lectures or when I take people out to write letters. I always post up maybe a sample letter or addresses to people to write to. You know, I advocate in that way as much as I possibly can.
Gotcha.
You know, but going to meetings, yes, I need to be more involved.
Yeah, I noticed just.
I do go to meetings. I mean, you know, but I would like to go to every friggin' meeting that I possibly could. But you know, I got a wife, I got 2 kids,
and
I got 2 jobs, and it's just, man, oh man, it's just I do whatever I can. Put it that way.
I got you. So let's talk
I
about.
mean, just us talking about it, I think, for good or bad. I mean, people will probably say, "Oh, Wetzel's full of shit. He doesn't know what he's talking about." Other people who would say, "Oh, yeah, But just having an open dialogue and doing a podcast or writing an article or something like that, makes more people aware and it educates people. So I think in that respect, I think we're all doing something. No, if you go to meetings or you don't,
Gotcha.
you know.
I agree. This year, in terms of releasing fish over 35 inches, releasing those trophy breeders, what can people do, I don't know, differently this year, or better practices that they can use in terms of releasing these big fish that maybe in the past they would have normally just gaffed and put on ice? I know a lot of guys are still going to be trolling for them. You see a lot of guys getting really big fish on the troll.
Right.
Is a 40-pound fish that just got, yanked out of the ocean on the troll, can you just throw that back in and it's going to swim off, or what's the
My
protocol?
feeling is yes, it will swim off. It will be fine.
Okay.
Most of the time, I think the statistics that you read, what was it? 44% of released fish are that they die.
Yeah, what do you think of that? I was meaning
Personally,
to
I think
ask you
that's the
that.
biggest bunch of bullshit that I've ever heard in my friggin' life.
Where did they even get that number?
Here's a study. And I respect the guy who did the study, because the guy did a lot for striped bass. I forgot his name, but I read about him. He seems like a great guy. But the study, as far as I know, I could be wrong about this, the study was done in the 90s. So they go, I think that it was mainly in fresh water, and it was cold. So that also had a contributing factor. But they're on a party boat. The guys are catching fish. They put the fish in a pen, right? Then they take those fish and they put them in another pen, which is like offshore or wherever it was. It was, I don't know where it was. I think it was like offshore. They put them in another pen. So that's immediately two transfers. Now the fish is out of their environment. Of course they're going to freaking die. I mean, it's a good study, but it's a good study because it gives you an idea of, I guess, mortality rates, but I don't think at all anywhere near accurate. And I think it's impossible to get an accurate study because it's not fresh water. Put it this way. When you go out to Montauk or anywhere and there's a huge blitz going on, the next day, do you see hundreds of, if it was a 40% mortality rate, you would see hundreds of bass dead along the shoreline.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you'll see one or two, and that's usually from the friggin' gill netters anyway.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean? It's just, people are freaking out about, oh my God, surfcasters, we're killing so many. To me, it's bullshit. I don't buy any of that. I mean, obviously, you have to release the fish as fast as you possibly can. You don't want it flopping around on the beach. Everything you read about is, it's already been said. That's what you need to do. You need to revive it especially if it's bigger fish. If it's summertime, you're going to have to go gentler with the fish, obviously. In the fall and the spring, when the water temperatures are colder, that fish is going to have a higher success rate to survive. When the water temperature is warmer, lower. But still, if it's done right, and I think the majority of anglers do it right, and it's going to survive. I mean, have you not caught fish with? I've caught striped bass with two trebles in their mouths, a treble and a single hook in their mouth. I've had them swallow my eel hook. I use I'm probably gonna change to a circle hook this year, but I use a 8/0 tuna hook when I live eel. So I've had this happen several times. They swallow the hook, and if they swallow the hook, you reach down their mouth and you cut the line as close to the hook as possible, and then get them back in the water, revive them as quickly as possible. You know how many times I've caught the same bass the next night in the same area?
Wow.
And after swallowing a hook, after gutting it, comes back and feeds again because there's my line in its mouth. that also confirms that there's a lot of resident fish in the areas that we're fishing.
Definitely. What's
because they're there.
what would you say your personal best striper from the surf is?
I don't know.
Or most
I have
memorable?
never legitimately caught anything over 50 pounds. Legitimately. One time I was out at Caswell's and I was fishing a chicken scratch bomber, I think. But I was fishing a bomber, and I had a fish, and I got him in, and it looked to me it was well over 50 pounds, but I didn't have a scale or anything, and I threw it back. I'm like, wow, that's the biggest freaking fish I've ever seen. But most of the fish I just release, I mean, they're in the 40s. I've caught a ton of fish in the 40s, and 30s used to be a dime a dozen. Well, not really a dime a dozen. They were always hard to get, but I caught a lot of fish in the 30s, especially back in the day. Now it's harder. I had one day actually, May 17th. I don't know what year it was, but I know it was May 17th. I was fishing the south side of Montauk, and I had 4 fish, well over 40 pounds, probably in the high 40s, several 30s, and I had like 3 or 4 fish. And dude, when I tell you, I could not stop them. They were just unstoppable. And I was fishing 3/4 ounce bucktails.
Wow.
And they were just straightening out the friggin' hook.
Oh, man.
I was like, oh my God. And I couldn't go up to an ounce and a half, because if I went up to an ounce and a half, they would, I couldn't slow roll it slow enough. Without it snagging up on the rock. So I had to stay with the 3/4. 3/4 was the only bucktail that was getting the job done. Oh my God. That was maybe the best day I've ever had. That was in the day fishing snotty big water in May.
Wow.
May used to be killer, man. May was killer. Back in up until like I don't know, 15 years ago, May was one of the best months to fish for bigger fish in Montauk.
What do you think needs to change for these striped bass to make a comeback besides a moratorium, or do you think that's the only answer?
I think that is the answer.
That's it.
I mean, you can go one fish at 36 inches. You can try that. I think the 28 to 35 slot limit, I don't think that's going to do a single thing, because you're still. Well, I mean, what have you done? You're still taking. Well, what? You can't take big fish now? You're still taking all the 28-inch fish.
Yeah. And what's that going to do to that class of fish, the 28 to 35 inches? If they take a beating this whole year. I mean, in all seriousness, though, what is that going to do? What's the impact of that going to be?
I guess we'll see.
I guess.
I mean, what the impact's going to be.
It's going to be bad. Yeah.
Everybody knows what the impact's going to be.
But,
so,
I mean, I don't know. Have you always been strictly catch and release, or was there an era where?
No. I never kept a lot of fish. I was always big release guy. Even I remember one time I was at the Montauk Classic, and I came in second or something like that. I still have a picture of it, and I still have the same exact checkered shirt that I still wear today in that picture. But this was going way a long time ago. I remember when I caught the fish, I killed the fish. I was almost crying.
Oh man!
I know it sounds like such a sissy ass, but I was like, oh man, I really didn't want to kill. But I ate it. It was a great fish. And back then, it was just, I don't know. Yeah, I don't like killing them. I think they're a beautiful fish. I try to preserve them as much as possible and educate people on the importance of release and the importance of preservation. So I haven't kept a fish in. The last one I kept, I think, was 2 years ago. I think I was using a dart or something. He just swallowed the whole friggin' plug.
Damn.
And I was no choice.
Yeah, that was it for him.
He was dead. So and then the one before that, I had like, I don't know, 40 something, 46 or 7, or I don't know what the hell it was. But he had a needlefish, and he took me around the rock. I fought that fish. There was like no way I was going to get this fish in. I was in Montauk. He had me around the rock. It must have been like a 20, 25-minute fight with this fish, and I couldn't get him off the rock. I can't believe it didn't break my line. I have no idea how he didn't break my line. But finally, I just, I took the line off the roller and just let it free spool, and then he came off, and I got him in. He was or she was completely spanked.
Wow.
And those are the last 2 fish I think I kept. But my kids are always, when are you going to bring one home, Dad? Because they like to eat fish.
So do they love fishing too? Are you getting them into
you know what I
it?
do? I go to the store, I buy wild salmon.
Tell them you caught it. fresh
No,
out
I
of
don't
fresh
tell
out
them
of
I caught it, but
Ronkonkoma.
I'm like, it tastes better anyway.
So do you have any superstitions? Do you believe in the whole no banana on a boat thing, or do you have any like
I don't know about
rituals?
bananas. I like bananas. You need the potassium. I'm kind of weird. Yeah, I don't know how much I believe it, but I got to do it my way. Like I got to wear a certain hat.
Yeah, let's.
Got a hat I wear all the time. I actually
share?
got 2 hats. And then I got to park in a certain place.
Okay.
If the wild grapes are out, I have to eat a wild grape because they're lucky.
Okay.
There's one place I walk into where I have to touch a tree.
Okay.
I tell all my customers, I'm like, you got to touch a tree, man. So they touch a tree.
That's awesome.
Just a weird thing. I will not listen to Billy Joel. I will walk out of rooms or weddings if Billy Joel is playing. My wife's like, oh, why don't you just make peace with him? I'm like, I've tried making peace with him, and every time I do, I don't catch shit. So
just from him, just from his songs playing, that'll put a stink in things?
From when he Holstein. Now this is going back in the '80s, man. When I don't know if you're aware of that. I don't know how old you are, but he Holstein back in the '80s.
Oh, who was on the podcast talking about this?
That's when they banned it, and he was Doc like for Muller. The Bayman, he said, and all this shit.
Yeah.
I was pissed. There's so many people that were pissed. I ever since then, I tried. I like his music too, but I try not to listen to it ever since then.
Yeah, we had somebody on. I think it was either George Skaka or Doc Muller, and they said they got into it with Billy in the surf one night because he was trying to.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
No shit.
Yeah, he was trying to make like a stand and like prevent them from catching fish or something. I don't know, but seems he pissed off a lot of fishermen. Looks like apparently.
Yeah, I don't know. He's probably a good guy. I don't know, but for me, he's bad luck.
So you wouldn't guide him?
Man, that's a good question. Would I guide? I would have to say, I say no now, but if he came up to me, maybe I would say yes. I mean, I don't know. I always said, my wife would ask me the same question, and I always tell her, I'm like, no, never going to happen. But, I mean, if Billy Joel came up to you, I don't know, man. I don't know the answer to that. I might say, no thanks, man. I like your music, but have a good day. I don't know.
Oh, that's great.
I don't know.
That's funny. So I got to ask you this then, too.
Joel, I mean.
Yeah, true. Do you believe in the fish gods?
Fish what?
The fish gods. A lot of people believe in the fish gods. Say their prayer to the fish
I believe in one
before.
God, fish god. I say, the fish gods, I mean,
yeah.
Kind of joke, but, I mean, I don't know. You know what's weird, though? I mean, you can, I don't know if I mean, for me, it's like, and I've had discussions on this on my website, too. I know it sounds fucking crazy, but it's like, some nights you can almost will a fish to hit. I swear. Like you're out there and you're like, and you just know. I don't know if it's the feeling of the night, the waves, the way. But you just, I mean, you can feel it like through your line. You know that there's fish there. You can get that fish to hit.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's almost like willing a fish to hit. It's kind of weird. I don't know.
I wish I felt that.
I'm getting freaky, man.
What else, man? Come on. This is what everybody wants to know. Like what are the hats that you wear? You got 2 hats. How do you know which one to wear? Which one do you put on,
Well, one's older and one's newer.
Gotcha.
They're both fucked up, but the original one is from 2012, and the reason I wear it all the time is not because it is a lucky hat, but when my son opened his eyes when he was born in 2012, did I say? Yeah, 6/4. Yeah. So when shit. What year was that now? Couldn't have been 12. 6407. 2007. I'm spacing out.
You got it though. That's all that matters.
Yeah. So when he was born, he opened his eyes and he looked at that hat. It was a red hat. First time he ever opened his eyes, that's what he saw.
Awesome.
That's and then, cool. A few years later, that hat was toast. It was disintegrating. And so I had to get another hat. I still wear that hat when I really need it. I wear that hat, the old one.
When it's really been a dry spell, you got to break that one out.
Yeah, I'm like, man, I got to change hats, man.
That is great. You got any? So you got some lucky hats, any lucky hoodies. What else goes into these pre-fishing rituals?
I don't know. I got a North Face hoodie. I feel that's got a little mojo on it.
Nice. So how do you think?
Weird things. I used to have some shirts and stuff, but they're all disintegrated. They're all gone. It's basically the hats now.
The wear and tear, man. It's crazy.
The wear and tear. The body's torn too.
Oh, I bet. We're kind of at time right now.
All right, that's cool.
But that was a great episode, Bill. Thank you so much for coming on the show
all right, man.
with us.
Thank you.
And what's the name of the website where people can check you out?
So it's surfratsball.com. Surfratsball.com.
All right, cool. So everybody make sure you visit that website. Book a trip with Bill this year. Get out there on the surf. Definitely learn.
Yeah, book a trip. Book a trip.
Absolutely. Bill, I'm going to probably book one too, and I'll see you out there this year at some point for sure.
Cool, man.
Thank you again, man, for your time. Those are some great stories. I appreciate it.
All right, man. Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, we'll talk soon. Interested in joining the Brooklyn Fishing Club? Every day, the list of benefits for our members increases. Visit brooklynfishingclub.com to view our upcoming trips, events, meetings, and more. Thank you again to Goodnight Sunny, who brought you this episode tonight. One of my favorite spots in the city for seafood and drinks, located on the corner of St. Mark's and First in Manhattan. Make sure you stop by and give them a follow on IG at Goodnight Sunny NYC. Stay tuned for their reopening. Thank you to all of our listeners. We appreciate all of you. Stay healthy out there, and we'll see you on the water.